You want to be recognized for your contributions at work. And to achieve that end, you worked hard, you worked on weekends, you produced results, and you even acquired certifications. But did the needle move? There are two reasons why our progress stalls. One is our own blind spots, our inability to showcase and demonstrate our competence. Now, if you're wondering, why is it that I have blind spots? I do get feedback from my managers. Know this. It's a very complicated topic. And in a recent survey, only 3% of employees felt that the feedback they received was helpful, and then managers, on the other hand, feel only 10% of their employees showcase improvement. Let's forget the whole manager feedback thing and let's take ownership of our own careers. So what's the second cause? The second cause is truly structural. It could be that in your company, there are very few opportunities for advancement. When it comes to career growth, you always have to look at it as what's within your control and what's outside your control. Yes, you may be able to influence what's outside your control, but you have to take ownership of what's in your control. If you stick around till the very end, you're going to learn tips to help you flourish in your career. For years, I struggled feeling completely invisible and being overlooked for promotions year after year. I even called myself the invisible employee until I went into this period of deep study and analysis. I turned to self help authors and then I reflected and examined all my experiences to find a way to thrive and flourish in corporate America. I've then authored a book on the same subject, and I've coached many successful clients. And that's why I feel I'm here today sharing this message with you. When it comes to career growth, often we're not very strategic. At least that's what my experience has told me. We kind of just throw darts on a wall and hope something sticks. For example, signing up for certifications. I'm not saying do not get the necessary certifications, but just know that because you acquired one, you are not going to move up the career ladder. There is so much more to be learned to showcase and demonstrate your competence and capability. I remember there was a time where I thought I wasn't being taken seriously at work. And somewhere I had read, oh, if you show steeple hands, that'll be a sign of power when you spoke. That was the dumbest thing I ever. That's small measures to solve a big problem. So, how do you solve that big problem of feeling invisible, not getting ahead, and even identifying your blind spots? When it comes to realizing your career goals, your work ambitions, remember, it's not about tweaks, it's about the big picture. And I ask you to zoom out to just see the world around you. Look at the people who have gotten ahead. Think of somebody you admire. What traits do they display? That's where we need to start. This whole approach that I'm going to share is all about imagining, visualizing your future self. I know it's hard, but bear with me for a moment. Think of yourself 5 years into the future. Think of how you would be speaking at that time. What would be your communication skills? How strong would they be? What's your sense of self? Do you operate with courage? Extremely important. How do you showcase your connection skills? Do you now have power to influence other people? I sure hope in 5 years. That's the new confident you. Imagine that person. Now, one thing I do need to caution you, sometimes visualizing the future you is complicated. And it's complicated for almost every human being. Dan Gilbert said it best in his 2014 video that people have it much easier remembering the past than to imagine the future. It's more an imagination weakness. But still, sit with that thought. Visualize, take that time to visualize you 5 years down the road. Just think about how you are going to be, where you're going to be, what does your work environment look like, what do the other domains look like, your family life, your fun friends, everything. Look at the whole person. Imagine one such day, right? But you do know what's caused you the most amount of angst is your career or your lack of progress in your career. Just imagine that future. Take it from me, write it down. And the reason I spoke about courage and connection, communication, there was a reason for that, because that's what gets people promoted, or that's who advances in their career. Just to share the importance of visualization, I'm going to bring up Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, while he was winning trophies after trophies, when he was interviewed, he, have you noticed, before all his swim meets, he would have his hoodie on and he would be in deep contemplation. What was he doing? He was visualizing. He was not just visualizing winning of the trophy, he was visualizing every stroke and every turn. That's how critical visualization is for success. And there are studies after studies that have proven that just thinking through the details of what could be can rewire your brain to and set you up for success. So keep that in mind. But for any journey that is dedicated to your future self, remember this: you have to make yourself the priority. No other greater priority than you. Commit to making yourself the priority. Do you know the number of times people say, I don't know what my purpose is? Your purpose is your future self. You want your future self to thank you. Your future self is waiting for you. That's the mindset you should have. And every decision you make today is a commitment to that future self. If 5 years down the road seems daunting and too far away, and you want to, and there's a huge gap between where you are right now and where you want to be, and it makes it hard for you to commit to that image that seems so foreign, make it 1 year away from you. So start with the 5 year and pare it down. Break up that big elephant into small chunks and bring it down to a 1 year goal. Where do you want to be in communication? Do you want to start taking teeny tiny steps outside your comfort zone? How do you start your connection building process? How do you become more influential in small ways? Yes, small ways. But here's one thing: in this whole growth journey, it's not about studying a hard skill or doing those smart goals. It's you doing something for that future self vision every single day. Now, don't try to become that influential person or the better communicator all in one day. You just can't do it. And that's why I love to think about my areas of weakness in this whole domain of communication, connection, influence, courage, and overall confidence. Think about what limits you the most. What's your weakness? And focus on that first and build that domain up. So, this is the right time for me to introduce the competence cycle. And remember, I said start with one goal at a time, one of the traits of your future self. So what if it's communication? And an aspect of communication may be active listening. So let's look at this competence cycle. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. And this is why I find this approach so much better, where they can be singularly focused on one trait or a sub trait. When we talk about the competence cycle, always start with number one, which is our unconscious incompetence. That's the time where we don't even know we have a blind spot. Remember, I talked about blind spots at the very beginning of this session. So, unconscious incompetence is you don't even know you have a certain flaw. That's the reason why you're being limited when it comes to career advancement. Let's assume it's how you interrupt people. Initially, you have a blind spot, so you are unconscious of your incompetence. But the moment you pick that up, maybe some feedback from a peer in the room, it's your job then to address it and say, I'm going to focus on active listening for the next 2 weeks in every meeting. And then slowly You get from unconscious of your incompetence to becoming conscious of your incompetence to then advancing to conscious of your competence, and then eventually, with good habits, progressing to unconscious competence. What that really means is it becomes second nature to you, it becomes a habit. That's why within 2 weeks, if you do this consistently with that singular focus, that one limiting factor of constantly interrupting people and not listening is now gone. And this is why when you take that big elephant and you break it up into chunk it up, that's where you get to moving fast on your goals. How do you know what to focus on and what time? I will briefly address prioritization. Let's assume on a Sunday afternoon or a Friday afternoon, you have to pick one goal that you're going to stick with for the rest of the week. And that should be made a reminder on your calendar because it's very easy to get caught up in busyness. And remember, a lot of corporate employees wear busyness as a badge of honor, and that really shouldn't be. Because what's the point of just being busy? What have you accomplished? Are you being strategic? Are you being focused? So, when you do this organization of one goal, one personal goal of fixing a blind spot, that'll take you a long way. Get your prioritization done and organize it in such way that the ones that are truly limiting you are the ones you focus on. With this little framework, just know this: as you keep chipping away at these one activity, one goal, sub goal at a time, you're making meaningful progress. As you start communicating better, as you start networking and connecting with others, as you start stepping out of your comfort zone, all this is doing what? It's building your confidence. When it builds your confidence, one step at a time, just know that when you show up in conversations, in meetings, your aura starts shifting. You start exuding this leadership presence, and that's what we've been cultivating all this time. You do all the work, you get where you have to get, you're refining and refining your skills. Now if you land at a spot where you feel, I have done this, I really have improved myself, my version 2.0 is way better than my original version, and if you feel nothing is moving in your organization from a career perspective, what have you accomplished? You're not afraid to say, well, maybe this place is not for me. But now you have the confidence to apply elsewhere, to interview well for another leadership position. So, this is why the importance of building this future self is not just for your current role, it is to equip you in all your glory, being brave, being a good communicator, influential, and a more confident person. This is a gift to you. Daily consistency is exactly what will get you where you have to go.